was just awful. The rules that this guy made up during the COVID era were ridiculous. You couldn't gather in groups of 10 or more. 9 was okay, not 10. You couldn't go out after 11 o'clock at night. 10:59, you're good, but 11 o'clock, that's when the virus came out. And then what was really interesting was about like 3 or 4 weeks into that whole thing, I guess Governor Cuomo sat down with COVID, or those representing the China virus that came from China. You look at China, I get along very well with China, including their President Xi. I call him Winnie the Pooh, right? You look at him, he looks just like Winnie the Pooh. He says to me, "Sir, don't call me that." I said, "You have to stop looking like him." Okay. Winnie the Pooh. Did you know Winnie the Pooh is actually banned in China? It's not allowed in China because the president of China is offended by people comparing him to Winnie the Pooh. Look it up. It's a real thing. But 10:59, that was when we had until we could stay out. And then I guess Andrew Cuomo decided to sit down. He'd signed a memorandum of understanding with the virus because he advanced it up to midnight. Now the virus doesn't come out until midnight. That was another one of my favorite rules during the COVID era. Masks were a good one during the COVID era. You couldn't go into a supermarket without putting somebody's used underwear that you bought in Costco over your face. That apparently protects you from the virus. We all know it didn't. But in New York, that was the type of stuff we had to live by. Vaccine mandates, it was awful. Social distancing, you get within, if you're within 6 feet, people start freaking out in New York. The toilet paper thing was wild too. I said, if you need 96 rolls of toilet paper to make it through 15 days to slow the spread, you have a much bigger problem than the China virus. You might have cyclosporia, right? We heard of that. Taco Bell. Apparently it's breaking news that Taco Bell causes issues. But the reason why we came to Tennessee, my wife and I came to Tennessee, is because New York was oppressive. It didn't feel like America. It's not America up there anymore, unfortunately. But I'll give you a little bit of hope. I lived on Long Island. And during the summer, early summer, late fall, and election cycle of 2020, I had started to see these little rallies popping up around the country. These you saw in Florida, maybe some of those boat flotillas with Trump flags. So we had a lot of that going on Long Island as well, because it's an island that's surrounded by water. People in their boats started going around. So I went out to go watch one of those. And there were a bunch of people parked in a very weird spot where the boats are supposed to be coming by. I had no idea what they were doing there. But I decided, screw it, I'm not going to hide who I am. I put my Trump flag out, I cranked the Bluetooth speaker, I put the Trump rally on from the night before, and all of a sudden, the other people who were parked there came over and said, "Oh, so you're here to watch the boats too?" So there was about, I have like the drone footage from this day, there was like 20 or 30 people parked in this very small spot, and they were all there to watch the boats. And I thought, how cool. The silent majority is actually real. It was very comforting that there were all these people that thought like me, that were out in the same spot, and they were all getting ready to fight for their country, right, in terms of the election. It was late August at this period of time, and I'm driving home, I had about an hour drive home, and I said, that was really cool. I flew my drone over the boats, I made friends, I had all these, the VR, these people were fascinated by it, but I'm driving home, and I said, you know what stinks? That everybody was afraid to say why they were there until they realized you didn't have to be scared. And so I said, this term silent majority, while it's a great term and it's a real thing, it doesn't make any sense. Because if we're in the majority and there are more of us than there are of them, why are we silent? I don't like that. I said, this is silly. So there I am, I'm working at this point in time in a paint store. The greatest paint, by the way. Sherwin-Williams, they do a tremendous job. Washable, scrubbable, tough, very strong. And I said, I don't like this whole silent majority. It's great, it's comforting, but I'm working in a paint store. I go on Facebook. I don't have a platform.
Brag on you.
I'm quite literally just somebody who's selling paint. And I said, you know what? We all have boats. That's fine. We all don't have boats. Sorry, that's fine. But we all have cars. And we were doing this ridiculous thing in New York with the birthday parties for COVID, where people were getting in cars and driving past the house of the people who were celebrating birthday and chucking the gifts out the window. And it's just, like I said, COVID, insane. And I said, well, why don't we just do that? and do what they're doing with the boats and strap a few Trump flags to our car and just go for a drive. They can't tell us we can't drive. We're distanced. We're in our vehicles. Like, this is perfect. Let's do it. So I posted a little event on Facebook about what I wanted to do. I figured there was going to be maybe 50 or so vehicles that might get around. There's a couple of pro-Trump groups. And long story short, we parked there. It's organized. Everybody's showing up. There were 300 vehicles that showed up to this thing. And I said, whoa, there's that silent majority again, but people are starting to come out and feel comfortable with themselves. Well, everyone asked me at the end of that first event, when's the next one? I didn't even think there was going to be a next one. I thought this was going to be a one and done. And the next one, I said, is in 2 weeks. I got it. It's in 2 weeks. They said, really? Where's it going to be? I said, I don't know, but everything is 2 weeks these days. 15 days, 2 weeks. It works for Fauci. It'll work for me. So I said, 2 weeks. And I said, thank you, Andrew Cuomo, because you shut down the movie theaters, and they have really big parking lots. So I created a group. I created a new event. I started putting out where I wanted to put the next event. 2 weeks comes around. Remember, we had 300 vehicles at that first event. 3,000 came out for that second event on Long Island in the fall of 2020, right before the 2020 election. And it only grew from there. We had future events after that. These folks coming out, just going for a drive, meeting those like-minded people. We had at one time put 15,000 vehicles on the road in Long Island. Right, on Long Island, right in New York. Yeah, it was insane. Yeah, I was saying, if we can do this in New York, then we can do this anywhere. Right? And then 2020 happened. Not good. Rigged. Totally rigged. Stolen. Horrible. And I said, we can't let this go, though. We got all these folks out. And so what we decided to do was we talked to these men and women, families that were coming out to support our country, the country that we know and love, that we were fighting to keep. And we said, we're not going to let this go. Why? Because in 1787, the quote that is attributed to Benjamin Franklin, when Dr. Elizabeth Willing Powell asked him, what do you have here out of that Constitutional Convention? What did Benjamin Franklin say? He said, it's a republic if you can keep it.
Yeah.
If you can keep it. It's our job to keep it. We are the stewards of the republic. We carry the torch. Now we sit back and do nothing, and we can only guarantee the problems that we've identified are going to get worse, right? If you have a leaky roof, and you decide you're not going to address that problem, the leak is going to get worse until you don't have a roof anymore. If you have a fire, you don't put the fire out, the fire is going to keep getting bigger. We said, a republic if you can keep it. And so we decided right there on Long Island we were going to keep our republic. We took this group, we organized them, we started focusing on some of these hyper-local races, school board. People said to me, wait a minute, we just went from talking about President Trump to school board races. Why? I said, well, it doesn't matter who your president is. If there's a book in your school district, in your school library, you can talk to your president all you want. He can't do anything about it, but they can at the school board level. If there's something wrong in the curriculum, you think they're learning things they should be learning in school, you could write as many letters to your president or your congressman that you want, but at the end of the day, it's those local representatives that make a difference at that level, and so we got them involved there. And in the spring of 2021, I got a call from a concerned parent about something that was being implemented in New York State schools called diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's the first time I'd ever heard of it. But I read through the de facto mandate, and they were teaching children about, and I quote, the senseless and brutal killing of black and brown people at the hands of law enforcement in our public schools. I went to my local school district where I graduated from. I spoke to that school board, and I said, I know each and every one of you up there, and the majority of you are either cops or married to cops, and you voted for this. You voted for the children in this district to learn that you or your husbands or your wives are responsible for killing people when you know that's not the truth. And folks, it was on page 2 of this document. I said, you didn't even get to page 2. You all should be ashamed of yourselves. One guy came up to me afterwards and said, I am ashamed of myself. You tell me what we got to do to help. The bottom line is, my goal was always to get people involved in the process, because if we're involved in the process and we're doing, as Benjamin Franklin said, keeping our republic, then we are doing our job. We worked very closely with a woman. If you watch Fox News, you've probably seen her a bunch of times, Vicky Palladino out of New York City. She's a Republican councilwoman in the New York City Council. We worked very closely with her to get her on the ballot to try and flip a Democrat district in New York City, in Queens, New York, to flip it Republican. She got on the ballot, and here's the best part about this story. Because of this grassroots activism and all of this that we were doing, I had a friend of mine while we were collecting petitions, and he said to me, Shawn, you got to do that Trump thing that you do on TikTok. I said, Jimmy, you're a smart guy, but that's a stupid thing to say. I'm not going to do that because it's China. We don't trust China. I get along well with China, but we don't trust China. He said, no, you got to do it. Go do that on China. Go do that on TikTok. You're going to get so many eyes to this movement. You're going to get so many people looking at what you're doing. You can inspire so many more people to get involved. And so I did it. I started making these little bits. Remember they tried to cancel Dr. Seuss? I will not eat green eggs and ham. I will not eat them Sam I am. I do Sam very well. I will not eat them with Mitch McConnell and that horrible person, Rosie O'Donnell. I will not eat them in South Carolina with the virus that came from China. Started doing these things. I did the Trump GPS. That was a fun one. Sitting in the shotgun seat of my friend's truck, waiting to go to Applebee's. We had to wait till 10 o'clock because, you know, you get the half-off appetizers. So imagine the voice of Donald Trump coming out of your GPS, but not just the voice, Trump himself. You're going to make a left. The greatest left-hand turn in the history of the world. Onto Sawtell Boulevard. I paved it with my own two hands. We did a tremendous job. And if you reach Bernie Sanders, you've gone too far left. What are you doing? We're being rerouted. I call it lost. What a stupid person. Why did you make that turn? What are you doing? You're more lost than a liberal reading the Constitution. What are we talking about? As I start putting this out, people start paying attention. It starts to grow. Then I decided, everybody seen the show Practical Jokers? It's a funny show. Those are guys from New York too. I decided, you know what? I'm going to start doing that Trump thing through the drive-thru of some restaurants. So it was one night in June, my friends in the car who we're running this movement with, and I ordered his meal like Donald Trump. I want a chicken quesadilla, the greatest. It has to be a tremendous quesadilla. And a taco supreme. We love the supreme. It's the greatest taco in the history of the world. Hold the lettuce. We don't want the cyclospora, right? Parasite. We don't want that. So we get up to the window and I ask the guy, do you know what I was trying to do? He goes, yeah, you sounded just like Trump. I said, all right, well, I'm going to put this on TikTok. Your face is not on video. Told him where to follow me. And I said, comment, be the first comment on the video, and to say that you took the order. So he did that. You know what's ironic about this? Well, of course, I wasn't eating the Taco Bell. I didn't want it at the time. It was my friend's food. The guy, this is so good. The guy who took the order on TikTok and commented, I took this order, his profile picture was the BLM fist. I said to my buddy, I said, Kev, that's the best spit you've probably ever eaten, isn't it? And I started doing this in different drive-thrus all over the place. Arby's, I went upstate New York, went to Arby's. I want a roast beef brisket sandwich. We want the horsey sauce, the greatest sauce. And the woman goes, well, we don't have any horsey sauce. That's because crooked Joe Biden destroyed our supply chain. I went to McDonald's. Trump loves his McDonald's, you know. I want the biggest and most beautiful Big Mac in the history of the world. And a Dr. Pepper, because we trust Dr. Pepper a hell of a lot more than we trust Dr. Fauci, isn't it? And then, by the way, thank you, that's a good line. By the way, one of the funniest guys in our government, Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, stole that line and said it on Fox News. I said, I know where you heard it, but it's okay. So I started doing all these things, goofing around, having fun. I'm working at Sherwin-Williams. This is another good one. We got a scam call, you know. The guy's telling me he wants to sell us solar panels. We're a business. I want 450 miles of solar panels on the southern border. Can you make it happen? The guy goes, what? I said, we're going to build a wall. And I would answer the scam calls like this. Anyway, I start doing these videos on TikTok, and it starts going viral. People started to follow me on social media. all across the country and saw the work that we were doing in the state of New York. But the craziest part about it is I decided, you know, Donald Trump sometimes takes credit for like everything, even if he wasn't really involved. That's why we love him, right? You know, when Tiger Woods was born, his father said to me, "Sir, his name is Eldrick." I said, "No, you have to name him Tiger. Eldrick isn't a tough name, Tiger." Great golfer. I taught him everything he knows. I got along well with, you may have heard of him, King Tut, right? King Tut. They wanted to call him Toot. King Toot. I said, "No, that's Chuck Schumer, right?" Chucky Cheeks, we call him, right? Because he let one go on the floor of the Senate. You're not supposed to do that, but you heard it. But you're not supposed to do that. So I said, you know, let's do this little, you know, to be or not to be. I got along well with William Shakespeare, right? I called him Bill. Tremendous person. And you know what's funny about that? Almost every time I tell that story about I made the video with William Shakespeare, and I say we called him Bill, nobody laughs. So it's not really that funny of a line. But it was one person who thought that line was hilarious. And she commented on the video, we call him Bill with his laughy face. And I looked, and I was like, well, if she thinks I'm funny, I must really be funny. Okay. I click on the account. It says, follow me on Instagram. She's got like 300,000 followers on TikTok. I was like, turns out she's sitting right there, and we wound up getting married because of that video. She met my wife, Reagan. And as you can tell, we call that out kicking the coverage. It was a very long kick. I'm not so sure we're ever going to be able to cover that, right? But you look at it. Yeah, so we say thank you, China. We really say thank you, God. That was a God thing. That was a divine intervention. Put us together for a number of reasons. But we met on TikTok like every millennial, I guess, does these days. And started to talk to her through instant message and all this stuff on Instagram, telling her what I was up to in New York. All this great stuff, and so I flew down to Florida to go see her. We went through a Chick-fil-A drive-thru. I ordered a spicy chicken sandwich, spicier than Kamala Harris after a night with Willie Brown. You know what I'm talking about. And the best part about it is Chick-fil-A reads the order back to you. So the guy said, "That's a spicy chicken sandwich, spicier than Kamala Harris." I'm like, yes! We put it on video. They went viral. We went to KFC. I want your big, beautiful biscuits. They're so beautiful. We love those biscuits. Nobody's ever seen any biscuits like it. It was great. And so we just decided this long-term relationship thing wasn't working. So Brennan actually moved up to New York with me for the final 6 months of Lee Zeldin's 2022 gubernatorial campaign. At that point, we're getting people all around the state out and involved. And I think David Strebe is here, right? And he said that he lost his primary a couple years ago by 4 votes. 4. So think about this for a second. Because I encounter this every day, whether I'm doing stuff on the radio, whether I'm having conversations with folks on my podcast Monday through Friday. It's on rumble.com/LFATV. And I hear all the time, well, what's it matter? Everything's rigged. I don't know, the machines, the mail-in ballots and all that. Well, 4 votes. So your vote does matter, and the people you talk to, those conversations matter. Too big to rig, and that mindset that won us in 2024, that matters. Our elections are far from perfect, but we have proven that if we come out in massive numbers, they can't even beat us when they cheat. So we take that too big to rig, and we take exactly, right? I'll tell you the story the night before the 2020 election. As you can tell, I'm a talker. The night before the 2020 election, I was dead asleep in the bed. Sat straight up like I was having a night terror. Threw my fist in the air and screamed, "Too big to rig," and then laid back down and went to bed. The night before the election, Grundy goes, "You're never going to believe what you did, Ellen." I said, "What?" She said, "You sat up, you threw your fist in the air, and you yelled, 'Too big to rig,' and then you went back to sleep." I said, well, now nobody can accuse me of not actually eating, sleep, and breathing what we do. I love conservative activism. I love political activism, but I love the idea of getting people together, making politics fun. Go have a cookout. Let's, by the way, round of applause for those who cooked our food today. Come on. That stuff was good. How about Sweet September? That ice cream was delicious. The Harris family, great people. Not Kamala and Doug, those are stupid people. These Harrises are great people. Give them a round of applause. But what it comes down to, and my wife and I have been extremely active in our community. We live in Rutherford County now. A year and a half ago, in March of 2025, somebody on the internet didn't like what I said, which I'm sure is shocking to everybody in the room. What? You don't seem like somebody who would be able to ruffle feathers. You certainly don't sound like somebody who would be able to ruffle feathers, even though I walk around calling people stupid people sometimes. Right? Low IQ people, the left, nasty people. Well, what they decided to do, because they didn't like what I said on the internet, was they were going to send an armed police force to our house. They swatted us. We got swatted. I got a call from the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office that a call came into their emergency line that I shot and killed my parents, that they were currently bleeding out in my home, and that I was prepared to commit suicide by cop. That's what they said. So the whole block was shut down. There were about 10 to 15 police vehicles. Cops with huge guns pointing them at us through our living room and everything. But we stayed calm, because that's what you do with law enforcement. You don't come out and start flailing around if you don't want to have any adverse effects in an encounter like that. It's actually very, you hear on the left all the time with ICE. Well, they got to stop shooting people. Well, maybe the people should stop trying to kill them. I mean, I think that's a pretty good idea. I've never had a bad encounter on a traffic stop. Granted, I've gotten many speeding tickets, but I've never put my life in danger, because I've never put law enforcement's life in danger. But that happened in March of 2025, and then in November of 2025, as a matter of fact, Iva was talking about, she saw me at an event for Joe Card, who was the mayor of Rutherford County at the time, and we met a gentleman in Rutherford County. His name is Kenneth Barrett. He's running for sheriff. We met him. I said, Sheriff, that's important to us. We got involved. I needed to scratch that itch, because it had been years since I'd actually knocked on the door. It had been years since I had made a phone call. It had been years since I'd gone and done some door hangers, and I needed to scratch that itch. Because I love it. I don't like to just tell people to get involved. I want to be involved. And so we got involved, and our friend Kenneth Barrett won his primary in May by 30 points or so, 52% of the vote, a three-way race. He's going to be our next sheriff of Rutherford County, and it's one of those things that we're extremely happy about. We get involved, you get out, you have some fun, you can make politics fun, and you can make real change. For example, back in 2021, when we were mobilizing people on Long Island, school board, library board. I had no idea what a library board even was. They said, Shawn, there's a library board election. I said, great, what do we have to do? We got 3 candidates here. They oppose this DEI stuff. They oppose this pornographic material in the children's section in the library. I said, good, how do we get them across the finish line? We only had a couple of weeks. We started publishing all these posts. We started doing interviews on our weekly, on our 3 times a week podcast back in New York. We got a call from folks who were working that election when they were having library board elections, saying they ran out of ballots, and our candidates won in a landslide. Okay?
Woo!
People got involved. We were so effective, as a matter of fact, that the teachers union, who was very upset with what we were doing, wound up showing up to my job and leaving a note on my windshield. They work like the mob in New York. It's very interesting. But the bottom line is this, and this is where I want to leave you, right? People look at these videos I'll do, these Trump videos, and I'll walk around and look at the governor of New York. We called her. Somebody said they were from Buffalo. Who was the one who said they were around Buffalo? There he is, right? I would imagine Bills fan, Buffalo Bills. Okay, there he is. Absolutely. See? You see how open he is about being a Bills fan? It's one of those things. I'm a Jets fan. I'm not as open about that. It's tough. We may not get along in football season, but he seems like a great guy. I give the city of Buffalo, crap. I said, we're going to give Buffalo to Canada, and we'll take Alberta, right? I just think it's a better chance. But I always mess around with Buffalo fans. My family's a Jets, we're Jets season ticket holders, so I've been enduring that punishment for a long time. Like that, I don't see a lot of winning, right? It's Jets. I'm not a basketball fan. I'm a hockey guy. The Islanders. Now, the United States won a pretty big hockey achievement in the Olympics, right? It was 3. We beat Canada. Canada. The French came out. You look at Canada, silly people. But we have in New York, the governor of New York, her name is Kathy Hochul. I call her the bucktooth Botox bandit of Buffalo. She's a horrible person. She flies to work on a broomstick. She's a stupid person. The Wicked Witch of the Northeast. She's a nasty person. Kathy Hochul. And she wound up winning in 2022. So we came down to Tennessee, my wife and I. But now you have somebody running against her. His name is Bruce Blakeman in the state of New York. He's the county executive of Nassau County. He won his first election in 2021. And he gave one of the first ever speeches of his campaign at a grassroots rally that we threw right on the bed of my pickup truck that is sitting right out there. How cool is that? When you get involved, when you bring people together, when you put candidates in front of crowds, when you give people a platform, and when you inspire Americans to keep the republic the way Benjamin Franklin said it is our duty to do. It's a republic. If you can keep it, we will keep it. We will be the stewards of this place. We will not allow communists and crazy people and sick people and nasty people and just violent people, evil people, demonic in many aspects people, anti-American people. They're not going to take our country for us if we show up, and so that is our duty. We've got the midterms coming. They're right around the corner. And Tennessee's going to do all right, but we don't put our feet up. We don't act complacent, and we make sure that we're spreading the word, and we're getting people involved coast to coast. I have a platform now online, by the grace of God. He's given me a very big platform, and hopefully that continues to grow, because unlike many people, I don't care about a click or a view. I don't care about ratings. I don't care how many likes I get on a post. It doesn't matter. The number one thing I want to do is I want to win. I want to take every like, every share, every follower, every view on a video, whether it's 1 million or if it's 2. And I want to know that those people came to my content, heard something, took something from it, inspired themselves to go out and make a difference, and inspired 10 other people. I want us to be force multipliers. I want us to go home today and say, hey, that guy who was talking for a long time over in Grundy County, that guy from New York who moved to Tennessee and said New York is the reason he moved to Tennessee is because he doesn't want Tennessee to look like New York. He doesn't want Tennessee to look like California. He doesn't want Tennessee to look like Illinois with Jiggly Belly Pritzker, the nasty guy. And I'll tell you what, if all of us do our job, not only will Tennessee not look like those horrible places, but our entire country will not fall to the lunatics that are destroying once great cities in our nation. So I will leave you with this. I want to say thank you to Grundy County. I appreciate the opportunity to come out here and speak with you today. Dan Bongino, you guys know Dan Bongino? He's one of my favorite people. He's one of my favorites. He always makes this comparison. He's talked about it a lot, the dance part. One person will get up and start dancing, right? And you may look at that guy and go, what is wrong with that guy? He looks like the used car thing. The flailing guy, like Tim Walsh. Except he's doing it. Tim Walsh is a nut job. He called himself a nut job. One guy gets up and starts dancing. And then eventually, because he's having so much fun dancing by himself, someone comes up and joins him. And now there's 2 people. And they're both having a blast dancing, and all of a sudden, 4 people are dancing. And those 4 people are having so much fun, and that fun is so contagious that 8 people start dancing. And 8 turns to 16, and 16 goes to 32, and 32 goes to 64, and then we have 128, and I can't add past that. I'm not good at math. But the point of the matter is, get out, have fun, even if you're the only one. Even if you're the only one on that street corner, I guarantee you somebody's going to join you with a flag. I guarantee you somebody's going to come to that meeting you've never seen before. I guarantee you you're going to be able to grow your ranks, and I guarantee you you're going to be able to keep this republic if you just have the courage to get started, get involved, and make a difference, and have fun. It will be contagious. Talk about liberty, do it with a smile, as the great Phyllis Schlafly said. Be a happy warrior. That's what I try to do each and every day. I could do a better job, but you know what? I think we're doing pretty well. God bless you. God bless Grundy County. God bless the state of Tennessee, and God bless America. Thank you.